amendments or the Lee motion, which is a motion to recommit, prior to votes other than motion to waive points of order and motions to table, that upon disposition of these amendments and the Lee motion, I be recognized.
Is there objection?
Madam President,
The senator from Kentucky.
reserving the right to object, I'm very concerned about Dr. Shakil Afridi. He's a doctor in Pakistan who got information that helped us and led to the capture of bin Laden. He's now being held in prison. He's been put in prison in Pakistan for 33 years. I don't think we should continue to send U.S. taxpayer money in the form of foreign aid to Pakistan when they're holding in prison a doctor who simply helped us to get bin Laden. This issue is of the utmost urgency. His case will be heard for an appeal, but it's a political case, and it can be influenced by U.S. action. I think the U.S. taxpayer should not send money to Pakistan when Pakistan is holding this innocent man who helped us get one of the world's most dangerous men, a mass murderer who killed 3,000 Americans. We captured him with help from Dr. Shakil Afridi, and Dr. Afridi deserves our help now. I have an amendment that's very important. It's not germane, but that doesn't mean it's not important. It's very important that we send Pakistan a signal that we will not continue to send them a welfare check when they're holding in prison a political prisoner who helped us get bin Laden. This amendment is of the utmost urgency, would only require 15 minutes of the Senate's time. I'm not asking for all day. I'm asking for 15 minutes to vote on ending aid to Pakistan until they release Dr. Afridi. I don't think this is too much to ask. The Senate has historically been a body that allowed debate, that allowed amendments, pertinent or not pertinent. This one is very important. Time is of the essence for Dr. Afridi. It's the least we can do for someone who helped us to get bin Laden, and I ask that we allow time for this amendment to occur, and so I object to the unanimous consent.
Objection is heard.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I appreciate the good intentions of my friend from Kentucky, because they are good intentions. But we're on a bill now that just simply does not allow something like that to come forward. I would like to work with him in the future, and I'm sure a number of other senators would, to focus on our relations with Pakistan. It's not only the problem that he outlined, but there are other things. The ability of our vehicles to drive to Afghanistan, and lots of other things. And it's an issue that the Foreign Relations Committee has held hearings on. It's something that we really need to focus on. And I would also indicate to my friend that Senator Leahy, who has been really a protector of human rights for his entire career, who's chairman of the Foreign Operations Committee, is also concerned about this. So I would say to my friend that he doesn't stand alone in his concern, but there has to be a time and place for everything, and hopefully we can have a full debate on our relation with Pakistan in the near future. Madam President, on behalf of the managers, I call to the clerk and ask to be reported 2389, amendment number 2389. That is at the desk.
The clerk will report.
The senator from Nevada, Mr. Reed, for Ms. Stabenow and Mr. Roberts, proposed an amendment number 2389.
I ask for the yeas and nays on that amendment, Madam President.
Is there sufficient second? There appears to be. The yeas and nays are ordered.
I have a second-degree amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report.
The senator from Nevada, Mr. Reed, proposes an amendment number 2390 to amendment number 2389.
I have a motion to recommit the bill with instructions. That also is at the desk.
The clerk will report.
The senator from Nevada, Mr. Reed, moves to recommit S-3240 to the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry with instructions to report back forthwith with an amendment number 2391.
I ask for the yeas and nays on this motion.
Is there sufficient second? There appears to be. The yeas and nays are ordered.
I now call Amendment 23. Looks like an 8 to me, 82. 92. It looked like an 8, but it's a 9.
The clerk will
Number
report.
2392.
2392.
The senator from Nevada, Mr. Reed, proposes an amendment number 2392 to the instructions of the motion to recommit S. 3240.
I ask for the yeas and nays on that amendment.
Is there sufficient second? There appears to be. The yeas and nays are ordered.
I call now Amendment 2393, which is a secondary amendment.
The clerk will report.
The senator from Nevada, Mr. Reed, proposes an amendment number 2393 to amendment number 2392.
I now move to proceed to calendar number 250S 1940.
The clerk will report.
Motion to proceed to calendar number 250, S-1940, a bill to amend the National Flood Insurance Act of 1968 to restore the financial solvency of the Flood Insurance Fund and for other purposes.
Madam President, on the Farm Bill, I've managed a few bills during my time here, quite a few bills, and it's always so gratifying after the work that goes into the work that you've done on a committee or a subcommittee and have that matter come to the floor. And it's a terrible disappointment to not be able to move forward as you anticipated. And so I say that for Senator Stabenow and Senator Roberts. No one has worked harder than they have in bringing a bill to the floor. It's bipartisan. It's important, not for the state of Michigan, state of Kansas. It's important for the country. And I wish we could proceed in another way to have amendments heard and voted on. But we, even though this is somewhat awkward, we're going to move forward with this bill. We're going to bring up some amendments. They're big amendments. They're crucial to senators being able to issue their opinion on this legislation. One deals with sugar, one deals with food stamps, both very controversial and very important. And we're going to have those, and hopefully we'll have a good debate on those matters. We can move forward on this bill in other ways. I have not given up hope, and I know that Senator Stabenow and Senator Roberts have not given up hope to have a universal agreement so that we can really legislate in this bill. As I've indicated, this is not, we don't do this very often in this manner, but it's important because we have an issue here that needs to move forward. This is a lot of times when the tree's filled, we just walk away from it. We're not going to walk away from this. This bill is far too important. It affects the lives of millions of people, about 16 million in America. And the reforms that have been made in this bill, I remember when I came from the House of Representatives 26 years ago. We wanted to make the reforms that are in this bill. So they've done remarkably good work. We hear everyone, Democrats and Republicans, talking about let's do something about the debt and the deficit. Here, Madam President, we've done it. What they have done is bring to this body a bill that reduces our debt by $23 billion. We have a long ways that we need to go beyond that. But gee whiz, this is a big deal, $23 billion. So I commend and applaud the two managers of this bill. They are fine senators, and they've done service to our country by getting us to the point where we are now.
The senator from Michigan.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to thank our leader for his strong support in helping us bring this to the floor. We would not be here without the senator from Nevada, our leader, and frankly, there are many demands, many things on his plate and our plate in the Senate. He understands 16 million jobs are affected by what happens in agriculture in this country. So thank you, Senator Reed, for your willingness to support us and continue to support us as we move forward to get this bill done. I also want to thank my partner and my ranking member, the senator from Kansas, for his continued leadership as we move the bill forward. We would have liked to have begun the unanimous consent agreement to move forward on 6 different amendments, not the universe of amendments. Certainly anyone could come down and say, why isn't my amendment as part of the first 6? But this, we wanted to get started as we worked with colleagues to bring up other amendments, and so we have put forward something that involved, first of all, a technical amendment that we need to do for the bill, a perfecting amendment, and then 2 Democratic colleagues' amendments and 3 Democratic colleagues' amendments, including the senator from Kentucky who just entered the objection, an important debate that involves an amendment that he's involved with. So our first step was to try to do this around unanimous consent, but understanding that we do have an objection, Senator Reid has offered us another path to do this by creating a way for us to at least have the debate on 2 of the issues that we had put forward in the 6 amendments before us. And one involves the sugar program for our country, and we have a number of members of different amendments. We have one that will be in front of us, but it's an opportunity for everyone to say their piece. And I can tell you, as somebody who represents a lot of sugar beets, that I care very deeply about this issue and certainly support the sugar program, but it's an important debate to have, and members deserve to be heard on all sides. And the other relates to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Many members who have feelings on all sides about this, and so we think it's an important debate to have, to give people an opportunity to give their opinions. I certainly, as this goes forward, tomorrow will be doing that myself, and certainly feel very strongly that what we've done in the bill on accountability and transparency to make sure every dollar goes for families who need it is very important. But we want members to have an opportunity to be able to debate what is important policy for our country. As we are moving forward on both of these amendments tomorrow, we will also be working, our staffs and ourselves, to come together on a larger package, a universe of amendments to offer to the body of the Senate to be able to move forward so we can come up with a finite number of amendments that will allow us to complete the bill. There are many amendments that have been offered, and we are going to spend our time going through those, just as we did in committee, where we worked across the aisle. We had 100 amendments and whittled that down to a point where we could come forward with agreed-upon amendments. We're going to do the same thing here. We'll put together a universe of amendments to move forward on the bill. But while we are doing that, we will have an opportunity. We invite members who care particularly about either of the issues that will be voted on tomorrow, when the leader will move forward with a motion to table on those, but we want everyone to have an opportunity to come to the floor and be able to be heard on both of those issues. So we are moving forward. We would have liked to have done it with a larger group of amendments that we could have started with while we continue through. Our goal is to allow as much opportunity for discussion and debate as possible, but frankly, Madam President, I have to say before yielding to my friend from Kansas, our goal ultimately is to pass this bill. I mean, we have 16 million people who are counting on moving forward, wanting certainty. Our farmers and ranchers want to know what's coming for them as they're in the planting season and going into harvest season in the fall, and they need economic certainty. We need to make sure that we have a policy going forward that makes sense and is put in place before September 30th of this year, when these policies run out and very serious ramifications to the budget take place. And frankly, I think all of us have said at one time or another we want to see deficit reduction. And I don't know of another bill that's come before this body with $23 billion in deficit reduction, bipartisan, a number that was agreed to in the fall with the House and the Senate. We have an opportunity to tell the people that we represent in the country, we meant it when we said deficit reduction, we meant it when we said reform, and we meant it when we said we were going to work together to get things done. We've been doing that with a wonderful bipartisan vote in committee, with a very strong vote to proceed to this bill last week. And we know the hard part is getting through and coming up with the list of amendments that we intend to do. And we're asking for our colleagues to work with us on behalf of the people of this country who have the safest, most affordable food supply in the world, because of a group of folks called farmers and ranchers who have the biggest risks in the country and go out every day working hard to make sure we have the national security and the food security we need for our country. They are looking to us to get this done, along with children and families across this country, and we will do that, and we will begin that process between now and tomorrow with a debate on two important issues. Madam President, thank you, and I see my distinguished colleague and friend who is here as ranking member, and I also want to thank another distinguished colleague from Iowa who has made very significant contributions in this legislation on reform. Reforms I know he has been fighting for years. I don't know how many years, but a long time. And we have stepped up to back him up and support him, and we need to get this done. We need to get these reforms done. We need to get this bill done, and we're going to work hard to make sure we do that. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President.
The senator from Kansas.
Well, this isn't exactly the trail that I had hoped that we would take to get the conclusion, a successful conclusion to a farm bill that we need so vitally in farm country, and for all the reasons that the distinguished chairwoman has outlined. I need not go over all of those reasons. I would mention that we have a September 30 deadline in which the current farm bill expires. And the alternative to that is to go back to the current farm bill, which we know is outdated, and that has a payment system that is also outdated. The other alternative, of course, if you do not extend the farm bill, you go to the 1949 Act, which is just not sustainable. It's not an alternative. So I had hoped that we could start considering. We had 3 Republican amendments, 2 Democrat, and also the perfecting amendment. But that's not the trail we're going to go down. Basically, I think about the only thing I could add is that we're not giving up. We can't. We will keep working as hard as we can to accommodate all members. I know there's a lot of talk on both sides of the aisle about a global agreement. That seems to be a little bit of an exaggeration, more especially for this body, but at any rate, an agreement that would encompass every member's concern, at least, and that we would go back to what the Senate used to be and have everybody offer an amendment and debate those amendments, and then have a vote and have a conclusion and work through it. That's exactly what we did when we marked up the bill with over 100 amendments and did it in 4.5 hours, which was a record. That's not what we're going to do as of today, or as of tomorrow. At least there's some degree of movement. I know the senator from Iowa has several amendments that are extremely important to the future of agriculture program policy, and I commend him for his leadership in the past and for being such a successful partner in working things out, not only for his state but for the country. So we will persevere, Madam President, and we will get this done. I guess we're John Paul Jones. We have just begun to fight. I yield back.
The senator from Iowa.
I ask permission to speak for just a few minutes, and I ask that my remarks be placed in the record after the Senate has taken action already, as they have today, on Judge Hurwitz's confirmation.
Without objection.
I was shocked and disappointed to learn earlier this afternoon that the majority leader came to the floor to yield back all time and to move immediately to a voice vote on the nomination of Andrew David Hurwitz to be U.S. Circuit Judge, Ninth Circuit. I find this to be quite irregular and outside the recent precedents of this Senate. Typically, members are informed of such actions in advance. I was not so informed, and I'm ranking member of the Judiciary Committee. I certainly did not intend to yield my time, and in fact, I intended on speaking further on the nominee, particularly to make clear some corrections that I think needed to be made after I debated this yesterday. Regardless of yielding time or further debate, I expected a roll call on this nominee. This has been Senate precedent recently. Before today, cloture vote was invoked on 22 different judicial nominees. Only one of those 22 was confirmed without a roll call vote, Levinsky Smith to the 8th Circuit. Cloture was invoked 94-3 on July 15, 2002, and he was confirmed by unanimous consent later that day. Even Barbara Keenan, 4th Circuit, had a confirmation roll call after cloture was invoked 99-0. Furthermore, it has been our general understanding around here for some time that circuit votes would be by roll call vote. So I'm extremely disappointed that there has been a breach of comity around here. Yesterday, I outlined my primary concern regarding the nomination of Andrew David Hurwitz to be United States Circuit Judge for the Ninth Circuit. I continue to oppose the nomination and will vote no on his confirmation. I want to supplement the record and correct the record on a few issues that arose during yesterday's debate. Now, at this point, I'm going to put the rest of my statement in the record, Madam President. I have something else to say. It seems to me that all the business of the Senate is based upon trust between one senator and another. When the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee isn't notified of this action, or any other senator notified of this action, it seems to me that that trust has been violated. And I won't be satisfied that that trust has been restored unless there's some action taken to have a roll call vote on this nomination. I yield the floor. Be called.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Michigan.
I would ask unanimous consent to vitiate the quorum call.
Without objection.
Thank you. I know my colleague from New Hampshire wishes to speak. I want, just for the purposes of members understanding what is happening now, we do have 2 amendments that will be voted on tomorrow morning. The majority leader has at his disposal the ability to have a motion to table, which he will exercise in the morning, but we want anyone interested in either of these 2 topics or amendments to come forward, have the opportunity to debate tonight. Senator Shaheen has an amendment that is I know very important to her and many members, and we want everyone to have the opportunity this evening to do that. There will be a vote. I'm not sure at the time exactly, but I would think at this point it will be in the morning with the leader. So we want those who are interested in debating the sugar program or debating the question of whether or not to block grant the nutrition program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, to come forward and have the opportunity to discuss and to debate that this evening. And there may be some time in the morning, but we will be moving forward on both of these amendments. So we want to put folks a notice to let them know if these are topics they are interested in. We would certainly welcome them coming to the floor. Thank you.
Mr. President.
The senator from New Hampshire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Senator Stabenow, who's done such a great job of chairing the Agriculture Committee. She and Ranking Member Roberts really have done amazing work to bring this bill to the floor. It is bipartisan, and it is a legislation that makes some significant reforms in the farm programs that we've had. In New Hampshire, many of the programs that are authorized in the Farm Bill are critical for our farmers and our rural communities, as well as for the protection of our natural resources. And I hope that we do have some agreement so that we're going to be able to actually have a full debate on this bill in the remainder of this week and in the upcoming week. As I said, this legislation really makes very needed reforms to our farm programs, and it helps to reduce the deficit. And I think for all of that terrific reform and the work that's been done, Senator Stabenow and Ranking Member Roberts deserve real appreciation and thanks from this body. However, there is one glaring exception to the reforms that have been made in the bill, and that is that the bill contains no reform to the sugar program. The sugar subsidies that we provide to farmers in America are really unique, because what the federal government does is to artificially restrict supply and provide a subsidy that keeps prices for sugar in the United States at nearly twice the world average. These are high prices that hurt consumers, they hurt businesses. In fact, a recent study found that the program costs Americans $3.5 billion a year. Now, let me tell you how the subsidy works. First, the federal government sets a floor on sugar prices through guarantees. So they guarantee how much is going to be paid for the price of sugar. These price floors ensure that sugar growers and processors will always receive a minimum price for sugar, regardless of what happens on the world market. But sugar prices have been far higher than this minimum price for years now, and that's thanks to some additional, very egregious government controls on sugar. Under the sugar subsidies program, the federal government tells sugar growers how much they can grow. These restrictions are called marketing allotments, and they limit how much sugar is available on the market and restrict the ability of buyers and sellers to trade sugar freely. So this is not a market enterprise when it comes to sugar in the United States. And no other U.S. crop is subject to these same kinds of government controls. So as a result, in the United States, we have severe supply shortages, which keep sugar prices artificially high. Now, the last component of the subsidy program for sugar is trade restrictions. The federal government severely restricts the amount of sugar that companies can import into the United States. So only about 15% of sugar in the United States is imported at those lower world average prices. Again, no other crop is subject to the kind of restrictions and price controls that I have just described. The result is a subsidy that hurts hundreds of thousands of businesses and consumers and only benefits about 4,700 sugar growers. But unfortunately, the Farm Bill before the Senate, while it contains a lot of reforms, contains no reforms to this subsidy program. I've introduced several amendments, but the one we're going to be voting on tomorrow is one that would repeal this subsidy so that prices are determined by the market instead of government controls. For the past year and a half, I've been working with our colleague, Senator Mark Kirk of Illinois, on bipartisan legislation, the Sugar Act, which would phase out the sugar program over several years and eliminate government control of sugar prices. Unfortunately, Senator Kirk can't be here tomorrow for this vote because he's continuing his recovery. But I'm pleased that there is a bipartisan group of our colleagues who have joined in support of this sugar reform. In particular, Senators Lugar, McCain, Durbin, Toomey, Lautenberg, Coates, Portman, Feinstein, and my colleague from New Hampshire, Senator Ayotte, have all joined me in calling for elimination or significant reform for the sugar program. Now, this is a big concern for us in New Hampshire and in other states around the country who actually make candy or other products that rely on sugar. In New Hampshire, we're the home of Lindt chocolates. We're the American home of Lindt chocolates. We also have a number of other small candy companies. And as this chart shows, American manufacturing companies like Lindt pay almost twice the world average price for their sugar. In fact, prices have gone up considerably since Congress passed the last Farm Bill in 2008. So we can see this blue line here at the bottom is the world price of raw sugar. This red line is the U.S. price of raw sugar. And this green line that's at the top is the U.S. wholesale refined sugar price. So while we can see how much higher that raw sugar price is, we can also see what it does to the refined sugar price. And we can see how significantly it's increased since the last Farm Bill. Again, the sugar subsidy program is able to keep these prices so high because it distorts the market. In addition to the minimum prices guaranteed by the government, the federal government drastically restricts the supply of sugar in the United States, with only about 15% of sugar sold coming from abroad, thanks to those import restrictions. The government controls how much each individual sugar processor can sell, and that further restricts the supply on the market. And again, the result of these government controls are to keep the artificially high prices for sugar that are reflected on this graph. These high sugar prices hurt job creation. According to the Department of Commerce, for every one job protected in the sugar industry through this program, we're sacrificing 3 jobs in American manufacturing. A recent study by an agricultural research firm called Promar suggests that the program, the sugar subsidy that is, costs 20,000 American jobs each year. In addition, a recent analysis that I referred to earlier found that the program also costs consumers $3.5 billion every year in the form of artificially high sugar prices. Now, these really are pretty startling numbers, but I want to talk about how this program, this subsidy program, affects just one of the small businesses in New Hampshire. We have a company called Granite State Candy Shop. It's a small, family-owned candy manufacturing company in Concord, New Hampshire, the capital of New Hampshire. Sugar is that company's most important ingredient. Jeff Bart, who's the owner, tells me that the artificially high cost of sugar has forced the company to raise prices on their goods. But more importantly, the subsidy has also prevented the company from hiring new workers as quickly as it would like to. So while Granite State Candy Shop would like to grow and expand, the sugar subsidy is really slowing down that expansion because of the high price of sugar. And Granite State Candy Shop is just one of many companies who want to grow, but who are forced to slow down their expansion due to an outdated, unnecessary government program that benefits relatively few sugarcane and sugar beet growers nationwide. Now, high sugar prices also put American companies at a competitive disadvantage with foreign manufacturers. Since foreign companies can get sugar so much cheaper, it is tempting for American companies to look elsewhere to manufacture their candy. And in fact, low sugar prices are a major selling point for foreign governments, encouraging candy companies to relocate. And we just copied this cover of a brochure from Canada. And you can see that it says, Canada, North America's location of choice for confectionery manufacturers. And then it goes on to say, consider these hard facts. Sugar refiners import the vast majority of their raw materials at world prices. Canadian sugar users enjoy a significant advantage. The average price of refined sugar is usually 30 to 40% lower in Canada than in the U.S. Most manufactured products containing sugar are freely traded in the NAFTA region. So we're losing these jobs to Canada and to other places. 20,000 jobs a year we're losing in businesses that need sugar as a major ingredient. This outdated program puts American companies at a competitive disadvantage, and it should go. That's why I hope that our colleagues, as they're considering this amendment tomorrow morning to repeal the sugar program, will decide to support it. I hope we will not have opposition to voting on the amendment from any of our colleagues in the Senate. We have consumer and business groups who have been calling for the repeal of the sugar program for years now. The Consumer Federation of America, the National Consumers League, they've joined business groups such as the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the National Association of Manufacturers in support of this amendment. These groups support reforming this program because they recognize that these special interests are hurting consumers and they're hurting American businesses. So I would hope that all of my colleagues tomorrow support this amendment, help us grow small businesses, grow those American jobs. Let's reform the sugar program. It is long overdue. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I yield the floor. I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka. I would ask initiation of the quorum, please.
Without objection, the senator from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take a few moments to speak about the two amendments we will be voting on